All right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the Olympic lifts, but I'm not saying power cleans or power snatches. The full thing, catching it. Can you say the A word? Is that a swear word? Off,
Yeah, it is.
off the ground.
ATF,
Yeah, off the graph.
the floor.
Yeah, should you do full cleans? Should you do full snatches? And does it help your vertical? If you've seen our training, we mainly do the power derivatives of those lifts. Um, but there is a time and place for it, and I guess we're going to talk about when that time is, where that place is,
Yeah.
and what our experiences have been with it.
But before we get into that, if you're interested in getting our individualized, specialized, best programming, what are we on the planet? Go to THPStrength.com and sign up. There's 70% or 40% off the first month of training if you're, as Austin says, if you're wary. We haven't done this in a while, an in-person podcast. It's been a minute. We moved and we set up our own podcast studio. So we're back though. And Isaiah, have you ever done a full Oli? Have I ever programmed it for you in your training?
Yes, you've
When?
programmed power clean 2+2. I think it was called power clean plus full clean 2+2. So I would do 2 power cleans and then I would do 2 full cleans in the sets, and that's the only time I've done it. I've also done it quite a few times when maxing.
On accident?
Yeah, by accident when the weight's too heavy.
Yeah, so the full Olis, as you guys know, my background, I was at NMU, Northern Michigan University. My mentor, Mike, loves the power derivatives for track and field. And I experienced a lot of high-level weightlifting coaching when I went to Northern Michigan because the coach there in Vance Newgard, there was a Olympic training, what would you call it, center?
Yeah.
Olympic training center for junior athletes. They'd be like anyone under 21, university age generally. And they were really good. Like, they were super talented athletes. Shout out Taylor Wilkins. She and Kenny Wilkins, they're still good friends of mine. And Taylor is one of the top, I don't know what her weight class is, but she's one of the top weightlifters. So I saw super strong athletes. I saw guys clean and jerking over 400 regularly. Or 350 regularly for sure, occasionally 400. You would see snatch weights at 150 kilos. What is that, like
330?
140, 150? Ryan Sennett would be doing that. They were strong. A lot of guys were strong, 130, 135. So I got to see the impact that had on other athletic abilities. So whether it was jumping or it was sprinting, occasionally the guys would come out and they would run with me or jump with me. And it's often thought, or I guess assumed, that Olympic weightlifting athletes are incredibly explosive. I'm sure you guys have seen the videos of Lu Xiaozhan and the Giga Chad guy. I don't remember what his name is. And they're doing like standing jumps.
Mm-hmm.
And they're obviously very explosive. So what are kind of the benefits of it is that you're able to get very, very high loads that you're lifting very fast, and you still get the catch. Now, the downside is that the amortizing, or when you're at the bottom and getting that bounce, sometimes it's because your thigh is actually like bouncing off of your calf. Other times it's, the connective tissue is also getting some element of like a wrapping effect, or like the stretchy kind of aspect of it, but it's not under a ton of tension. It's almost like passive stretch. I mean, it's still active, but it's a lot of end range stretch, and there is a inherent risk to doing that. But I like doing the full lifts because it allows you to do super maximal loads, like super maximal power clean loads, and it teaches you how to catch the weight correctly, which you can then modify or adjust as you get more proficient at the lift, right? You could catch in a higher position or higher position or higher position. So I think that's one of the major benefits specifically for the clean. And the snatch, you also have a similar thing happening, but it's also that you have to be really mobile. So if like you're a multi-event athlete, for example, and you have to throw jab or you're going to throw disc, shoulder mobility is super important for like the whip and flail mechanism. And that's basically like your hip comes through and then it creates like a whip or a flail effect. If you guys know what a medieval flail is, it's the spiky ball at the end of a chain that allows you to accelerate that really fast. In a throw, you get hip shoulder separation, and that lets you throw further. So it's really important in that aspect because you have to have a lot of shoulder mobility in the catch position, and you still get the benefit of having a really high velocity, high force activity. Now the downside, these ones are limited by technique. Like, I would not say that the power clean and power snatch are that, maybe power snatch is a little bit more technical, but power clean definitely not. But a full clean and a full snatch are definitely more technically limited. I still put it in training. Specifically, I'll do like barbell complexes because I like guys to still address those ranges of motion. I like them to still kind of hit those positions, and then I'll also do it occasionally when I'm doing higher time under tension activities. So if I'm doing like the first mesocycle of a macro cycle, like in your case or something like that, I might put full cleans in. Now, for in his case, I probably wouldn't, and that's because his health would be teetering if I decided to give you full cleans. Like, how much do you think you could full clean right now?
I think I could full
What do you think
clean.
you could catch? Get underneath.
I think 335,
I think you could get under.
345.
You get under more than that. Okay, assuming you weren't scared, like you were risking it all for to get underneath it.
Ooh, that is tough. I actually might have a number on this. I've caught 295 like on purpose full cleaning when I could only do, what was my PR at that time? I think my PR
Front
was
squat?
265.
Wait, for clean?
My power clean.
Oh, so it was a
Yeah.
30-pound max or 30
Yeah.
pound PR?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's assume 355. I think you could do that. I think you could easily full clean
Yeah.
355. Just based on how you pull it. I mean, I saw you pull 325 to like you were in a quarter squat.
Yeah, it's just that catch scares me. I can't, like the wrapping effect and bouncing at the bottom. Like, I'm not built like I used to be.
No, but I'm saying if you were to risk it all.
Yeah, if I were to risk it, I think I could do something like. Oh yeah, that's actually a good point because if I'm
Like
deloaded too, like I'm like
fear
feeling
removed,
fresh.
Fear removed. I think you could do
Yeah.
365 at least.
I think that's the upper end of it. I think 345 to 365 would be my range.
Yeah. So if I were to load like
Which
a
is
given
insane.
cycle,
That'd
yeah,
be
it is.
crazy, dude.
If I were to load a given cycle for you of that, I would have you working at like 250, and I would have you do volume because you're getting volume of the pull and you're getting volume of the catch,
Yeah.
which is the benefit to doing full cleans. And then if you really want to kind of dial it in, the other benefit or another way you can use it is if you're trying to actually offload the legs, you could do full cleans and cut the squats because you're actually going to get the squat volume through standing up to clean.
Yeah.
And I haven't really done that with guys. I know in track sometimes they'll do it when they want to unload athletes or it's closer to the season and they don't want to squat but they still want to do something. Sometimes guys will do that. The downside to it is it's slow. Like we looked at the snatch the other day and I was doing a power snatch and I was hitting 3.1 to 3.2 meters per second on that peak velo, and then in a clean, what were you? Well, I mean, I was hitting what, like 2.1
Yeah.
at similar percentages for a clean, maybe 1.98 occasionally, and that's a very different way to get power, right? And so if you're doing a full clean or a full snatch,
It'll be even slower.
you're going to get even slower, which means you're trending more towards the strength speed, and that's like the biggest detriment to them. I'm not really going to get super into the jerk because I think there are scenarios, especially high jumpers are weirdly good at split jerk. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but they are.
And hang cleans.
And hang cleans, yeah, hang power cleans are just elite at. They do use their bicep tendons. I don't even know. Like Fabian does it such a crazy way, Delrid. So yeah, I think that there is a time and place for them. I think that they add time and retention. I still think that they are super high power activity. I would be surprised to see what the wattages you get on that. Like if you were to do, because do you get higher wattages on a clean pull or a power clean for you?
I mean, based on when I did it a couple days ago, it was clean pull.
On 225 with me
I think so, yeah. Actually, I haven't tried.
from the floor.
I haven't tried lower percentages with clean pull, like going for peak power.
See, I hit higher percentages of wattage with clean pulls, but again, it's the same issue that I was just saying, is you're getting it a different way. You're
Yeah.
getting it by going slow. And I think it's all important and it definitely helps like your neuromuscular system. But you're kind of talking about maybe 100 watts here or there. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, I get higher wattages in pulls though, for sure. Well, actually, my pull was the same at the same weight. The benefit is I can go much heavier and still I maintain technique. A lot of people that aren't
Yeah.
proficient at clean pulls will actually just not have good lifting technique, and then yeah, it goes up.
It's like not intuitive. It's like a weird because you have to keep the arms straight. Like
Yep.
it's.
I mean, I'm used to it, but I've always
Yeah.
done it that way. I feel like if you haven't, then it's probably not to your benefit. So yeah, I guess my question to you is, would you ever consider doing them at this point?
I would actually, in the way that you mentioned. Like I think earlier on in the year, I think it could really help with the catch on a power clean.
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like,
Uh,
what's the number one thing you think you see people screw up whenever they're first learning cleans or when they're stuck? Like Austin.
at maximal weight, it's the fear. They're
Yep.
yeah, they're not scared of getting underneath the bar. Like yesterday, for example, that was one of the first times in a while where I was just letting it hit me, like just letting it ride me down. And I think a big reason for that is because I've been front squatting heavy as hell. And yeah, most guys just kind of get scared, and it's because they don't spend time in that range of motion. Like,
It's tough too because, well, for me, when I was doing it and I was dropping really far under it, I'm like, oh shit, I can feel the bar around my mouth level when I'm in that front squat position, and I know it's about to drop even 6 to 8 inches, and you can tell, like you can see the bar whip,
yeah,
and you can see the bar like spit you out, and that's the only way I can describe it. It happened to you yesterday. It happened to me yesterday. You get crazy high eccentric forces on that, and that was why I was like, I'm fine missing these weights as long as it hits my shoulder. If it spits me out, it spits me out, but I want to try to defeat it. You know what I mean? I want to try to beat it and not let it do that.
What's interesting though is I feel like forcing full cleans when it's not like the weight has to be heavy enough for it to like ride you down. I don't see
Like catching it in the
when I've warmed up for power cleans by doing full cleans, it doesn't work. Like I'm fatigued by the time I get to the top sets. The motor pattern feels different, and I've never power cleaned well when I've done that. Versus, and I see this when I watch like the Chinese weightlifters like warm up and stuff like that. When they're doing their warm up sets, they're catching high. Like it's basically they're catching it as high as they can, and then as the weight gets heavier,
they have to.
eventually it becomes too heavy where you have to get under it. So it's more like the weight of the bar is dictating the depth. It's not forcing the depth, if that makes sense.
Like if you, yeah, I see what you're saying. You could technically, well, there's two ways you could do it. You could still rip it at a light weight and just drop underneath it all the way, and the bar will drop 2 feet, and you'll land in a deep knee position on your shoulders, and then you're really screwed because there's really no loading. That's like kind of passive loading at that point. I mean, you could get the wrapping effect if you're mobile enough. And then if you're like catching it in a versus catching it in a quarter squat and then squatting it down, that's like where you'll fatigue yourself versus what you said, which is where you would pull it as hard as you can, catch it as high as you can every time. And when it gets heavy enough, the highest you'll be able to catch it is a full squat. I call it meeting the bar. Like I call it meeting the bar. You want to meet the bar at its apex, meaning the highest point, so that it doesn't crash on you. With our athletes, I'm okay with it. I actually don't mind when it does crash on them because you get the eccentric forces. But if I were like coaching an Oli lifter, I'm like, you got to be either slower turning the bar over sometimes. If you're gonna have the same pull, which is difficult to coach.
Which I think like someone like Austin struggles with that because he doesn't have a very strong squat. So when the bar crashes on him, like it's basically over. Like he has to meet the bar at the top, or he's not gonna make the lift.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Well, I feel like that's a good conversation for this. If you guys are wondering why you have them in there, that's why. That's why we put them in the training. If you're a THP strength athlete, it's usually time under tension very early on in a cycle. Or if you're like more of a strength speed athlete, I would definitely emphasize that later on in a macro cycle. You know, for whatever reason, maybe you're a thrower or you're multi-event athlete. Maybe
Football players use it a lot.
Football players too. Yeah, Saquon I think is like a 400.
Like every time I see a freaky clean
from a football player,
it's like a full depth.
Clean. Yeah.
It's like a full clean. From
I don't even think they still call it a power clean because their strength coach is like, yeah, power clean. They're like, that just means to them like, do this weird curl jump exercise where you catch it. Like that's all they think. They don't care about the depth.
And the technique is usually horrible.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. They're just like beast mode, which is whatever. But anyways, if you guys are interested in getting coaching, go to THPStrength.com. We love what we do. We love working with you guys, and we want to help you get better. So if you want to jump higher and you want to be a better athlete, go to THPStrength.com. Anything else?
No, I think that's good.
All right. See you, boys and girls.